up, fam? How you doing? Hey! Hey, all you beautiful people! So nice to see you. Gosh, I'm so glad to see you. It feels like it's been far too long between moments. But thanks for having me back for one night. I really wondered where that was going because, as you know, I know nothing about football. So I don't know who Joel Cedarwick is or any of that stuff. But, good for them and good for you and good for me. Nice to be back. Hey, I hear that you're cracking into some discipleship stuff. Is that true? Is that what this is about? Someone can talk to me about this later. But my understanding of this is that it's on the top of the Sistine Chapel, and one hand Michelangelo painted to represent God, and the other hand he painted to represent humanity and us. And I just reckon we all live our whole lives right there, in that little bit. And I think the whole point, of chipping back the clay and remembering that you're made of gold and processing through your stuff and showing up and doing the work and being genuine and staying plugged in and remembering who you are, all of that stuff, it sits right in there because that's faith. That's reaching out, not knowing how big the gap is and reaching anyway. And that's a big part of what discipleship is, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But I want to pick up right from where Sammy left off because, he's good, that man you've got there. And I want to build him up and lift up his message because he's got great things to say, and I want to pick up his point about stewardship. So I recall from watching along, because I don't know if you know this, but since we got together, I just hit that little bell and that subscribe button, and now I see all your stuff. And now I watch all your messages. I don't play your games because, still struggling with the up-down stuff. But I'm following along, and you guys are doing some amazing things. And I want to start here because Sammy talked about what it meant to steward your time and your relationships and your giftings and your skills and all the things that God poured out into you and said, hey, do great things with this. Here's the bit that I'll add to this. The other thing God gave you that he didn't give anything else in creation was a will, a free will. You're not a migratory species, okay? You don't have migratory instincts unless it's to Macca's after youth because you're hungry. Totally get that. Pay that answer. But, you don't grow necessarily in a specific way. You're not driven by animal instincts that are base level that you don't have any control of. Doesn't matter what situation you get yourself into, whether it's a mountain of stress or pressure or very little at all, you always have a choice. God gave you a will. God imbued into humanity God's sense of self. Like in the image of God, he created them, male and female, in the image of God. You've got a will because God has a will. And God's will, the way God uses his will, the way God makes choices, reflects God's character. And I think God made us with free will so much so that we can reflect our own character and make our own choices so that love and truth and faith and hope can be totally legit. It's all your choice. You always have a choice. And I actually think if I had to boil down discipleship to one or two definitions, it would very simply be this. Discipleship is the process of becoming the person Jesus would be if he were living your life, your family, your friends, your school, your tasks, your circumstances, your talents and skills, your hopes, your joys, your dreams. Discipleship is the process of becoming who Jesus would be if Jesus were living your life. Does that make sense? Yeah, can you hold that? And soups. And the other bit is about discipleship. When I grew up in church, discipleship was a program like you went and did. Discipleship was a tick box list of stuff you had to do to be a disciple. And you know me enough now to know that faith is not a product, it's a process. Yeah? It's not about ticking boxes, it's about working out which box you're actually going to be in and why. Discipleship for me, if I was going to disciple you, I would pour my life out so that you could use your will in such a way that it brought you to life and life in abundance. So that you could have the life and life in abundance that Jesus came to give you. I want your discipleship to be about you stewarding your free will so that you can have the life God planned for you and so that you can be the man or woman that you've been made to be. And so when we talk about will, I can't get away from two gardens. I think I lived my whole life in faith in two gardens. Garden of Eden and Garden of Gethsemane. Yeah, you got it. All of our days, all of our stories, all of our experiences, honestly, you can find them in one of the two gardens. We lose it all in one and it's restored in the other. But when you think about will and the gift of free will and the sense of discipleship, becoming who God made you to be, becoming the character that you've been built in light of, the character of God who loves and chooses and gives and comes toward and values. When you think about that playing out in the Garden of Eden, free will, just like gave it up. Adam and Eve gave up their free will because they listened to the snake, the deceiver, the whisperer of lies, the distraction. They didn't operate in their free will. And when they didn't operate in it, the blame came and the shame came. God was walking in the cool of the day and said, Adam, where are you? And they were hiding because they were ashamed and afraid. And you know what the reason they gave for the choice that they made with their free will? She made me do it. And then she said, the snake made me do it. So much in my life when I listen to the distraction, when I listen to the thing that has my attention more than God, when I listen to whatever compulsion I've got going on, and then I blame and I feel shame. Can you relate? Maybe. And then in the second garden, this Gethsemane garden, my goodness, I hope to grow into Jesus where I can put my will not in the service of a distraction, but in the service of God. Not my will, but yours, Lord. I want to put my will next to the Lord's. I don't want to be one of these sleeping disciples at the back. Because I reckon in our world, it's not binary. I reckon it's not just your will's in the service of God or your will's been hijacked and distracted by whatever else you've got going on. The third option and the worst version of faith, especially for us as young people, is the numbness. When you don't feel anything, when you can't think clearly at all. The numbness is when you put your will to sleep. When you're sleeping on the job. You're sleeping on your faith. And it's just not alive anymore. I don't want that either. Discipleship is about stewarding this great gift of free will that you have. And we do this in a couple of ways. Just remember that you're always between gardens. Just like faith is not a product, but it's a process. Discipleship is something we participate in. It's not something we perform. And I think I was really sold that lie as a young person, that my discipleship is a performance. And my discipleship is going really well if I'm checking all the boxes, you know? I don't think that's the case, guys. I don't think discipleship is successful or unsuccessful. I think it's what you keep doing. Do you notice that in the New Testament, Jesus never says to his 12 disciples, great job, fellas. You smashed it, crushed it, did great. Like, do you notice that in the New Testament when you read through? Not John, not like old mate John, not Matthew, not Speedy Gonzalez, Mark, not even Dr. Luke. They don't have these moments where they record Jesus saying to his disciples, you beauty, that was amazing. You did a great job. Or, gee, you stuffed that up, didn't you? We don't have that in our text. What we have in the New Testament is all the middle bits, all the in-between bits. Jesus talking to his disciples saying, hey, this is how we do it. Hey, guys, this is why we do it. Hey, this is important. Hey, people, make space for this. Let's have a conversation about this. Discipleship is not about the end result. Discipleship is staying in the process long enough that the end result is just a foregone conclusion. Are you following? Yeah? Great. This is like in Galatians when then the author, we'll say it's Paul, the author talks about the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and faithfulness, and self-control. Do you teach that one still? Yeah? Someone's got it. Right? The fruit of the Spirit, that's a product of what? The root work. The root work. If you get the root work right in a tree system, the tree's going to bear fruit, no matter what. But you've got to get the root work right first, and that is participating in the process. That's discipleship. So I think a lot of us have this image in mind when we think about the disciples being called, right? It's a really classic image. Jesus on the Lake of Gennesaret or Galilee or Tiberias, and he says, "Come and follow me. You are fishers of fish. I will make you fishers of men or humans." Okay? This is like the calling narrative. But have you guys seen Ocean's 11? You know, the first half hour is just us meeting the team, and you meet the demolitions expert. He's like, "It'd be great to work with proper villains again." You know, and you meet the stuntman, and you meet all these different characters. Honest to God, in a movie that's like 2 hours long, there is 45 minutes of just calling narratives. Come follow me. Come be part of this gig. Come be part of this heist. When Tony Stark shows up in Peter Parker's bedroom at Aunt May's house and is like, "Hey, I got a job for you. You got a passport? Come to Germany." That's this. That's this. You got to find a way to get your heads out of an old crusty Bible and into a real do or die spandex edition. Yeah? Okay? Because when I see Tony Stark saying to Peter Parker, "Come on, kid, join the team," I see Jesus calling to disciples saying, "Come and follow me." Tony Stark, you know the story. I hope I don't want to spoil anything, but Peter Parker has to step up and maybe he becomes the next Stark. Who knows? Disciples are the same. Jesus says, "Come follow me." Maybe you become the next Christ, not the Son of God, but the Christ figure in your community, in your home, in your family, in your church, in this youth group, in this suburb, right? We all have a will that we can put in the service of God to live the life that he lived. Now, the thing about the ancient world is when a rabbi took on a follower, a disciple, it wasn't just like, "Come and do what I do for me." It's not an internship. You don't just get coffees and do photocopying, okay? Be wary of those of you signing up for internships. Just do the paperwork, read the fine print, it's all good. When Jesus calls disciples, he's not calling interns. He's trying to call apprentices. In the ancient world, when someone says, "Come and follow me and be my disciple," it's not just come and do my stuff. It's come and know me so well that you begin to think like me, talk like me, look like me, eat like me, joke like me, laugh like me, live like me, so that my influence and my philosophy can go viral, can go global. Do you know what I mean? Right? And so it's not just Jesus calling disciples at this time in history. John the Baptist calls disciples. Later on, Paul calls disciples. Timothy has disciples. You know, your teachers at school, if you really like them and you thrive in their subjects, sometimes you are their disciples. Sometimes you can watch the apostolic succession of leaders and you can pick up traces of different leaders in different people. You know, when Toby starts to sound a little bit like Ben, or if I get up here and I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to be sick. Tacos, tacos." It's like, "Oh, I'm Toby's disciple now." You know, if we all grow mullets, we're going to all be Josh's disciples now. You know, like, discipleship is not just about doing stuff. It's about being and changing and developing your character to be like that of your master, to be like that of your teacher, to be like that of the person who's leading you. And so when Jesus says, "Come and be my disciple," and he doesn't say, "Just come and do stuff for me," he says, "Follow me." Not make it up as you go, not pressures all on you, not, you know, the fate of my Christian reputation is resting on how many times I come to church. No. Just follow me. Translation, just get to know me. Get to know me. How many times, guys, do you think I've got to be doing more for Jesus, or I've got to be living more for Jesus, or I've just got to be better with Jesus, but you don't actually know Jesus? I really encourage you to get into the Word, get into the Bible, and then get into each other's lives and start talking about your experiences of who Jesus is. Get to know Jesus so that when you become his disciple and as you grow in your discipleship and you put your choices and your will in his service, you know what you're getting into. Because I think when Jesus says, "Follow me, know me," he's really saying, "Be with me. Be with me. You might have seen this in films or stories. You might have had the experience yourself. Somebody loves you so much that they just say, I want to be with you all the time. Doesn't have to be romantic. Doesn't have to be sexual. I just like hanging out. I just want to be with you. I just want to spend time. Doesn't matter if your love language is gift giving or acts of service, but quality time, everybody benefits from that. Even introverts, even me, even introverts like me, we benefit from quality time. Just be with me. How much of my discipleship have I wasted doing stuff when I didn't just be with Jesus? And the story we have of this, like there's so many in the Bible, but do you remember Mary and Martha? Yeah? Mary and Martha, they're two cousins or two sisters, cousins of Jesus, friends. One gets really hopped up on like doing the dishes and changing the beds because Christmas is coming and it's this big event and the family's all coming into town and she's like super mad, anxious. And the other one's just quietly sitting at Jesus' feet. And some people tell this story like the one who sat at Jesus' feet is the Holy One and the one who was obsessed with the dishes is the cranky old maid. That's not true, guys. That's not true at all. Because what does Jesus say to Martha? He says, Martha, I know you're stressed and anxious about many things. He doesn't say, wait, don't do that. He doesn't say, dude, you missed the point. He doesn't say, hey, put that down and come over here. He goes to her. He stands at the sink, puts his hand on her hands. Put the tea towel down, Martha. Just look at me. Look at me, darling. I just want to be with you. I just want to be with you. No condemnation, no shame spiral, and no blaming. Just, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. And I think this, like Sam says, it's all about relationship, is what it looks like. But again, get your minds out of a crusty old Bible and put it into a group of guys who are going, like walking around on a road trip. Can you imagine the fart jokes they must have made? Can you imagine the wet willies? Can you imagine all of the young adult male behavior? Not to rag on that, but if it's in you guys, it's got to be in them. These are young men walking around the country, seeing the world. They've left home. They've left their parents. They've finished school. Have you ever thought of Jesus' first year on the road as schoolies? Like, how crusty is your Bible? Get real, guys. It's relationship. It's being together. It's doing stuff. It's people pushing Peter in a ditch and thinking it's hilarious, you know, and other people, and, you know, Matthew counting how long it's going to take to dry off the clothes. Like, it's hilarious. It's real. It's relational. It's discipleship. It's being together and putting your will in the service of the character of God. Now, Sammy talked about this, the way. The word is hodos. Say that with me. Hodos. Hodos, yeah. And it's called the way. It's called the way. And Mark, the zippy doodah author who writes really, really, really fast, kind of talks like Toby too. Really, really, really fast. Okay. This is what happens. Like, invite me in, give me an inch, I'll take a mile. All right. This is what happens, guys. Mark sets this off, and Mark writes his gospel first, and then everyone else thinks it's real sick, and they copy it for the rest of the gospels. And they use this language of hodos, on the way. On the way. And you'll hear this in English, while they were on their way. On the way to Emmaus. On the way to Damascus. Going through Capernaum. As they went to Judea. When they turned their eyes to Jerusalem. Like, it's all on the way. It's all done on the walk. All of this learning, all of this discipleship is done on the way, on the walk, between episodes, between crises, between miracles, between moments of great faith and grandeur is on the way, and on the way is where the learning is, because on the way is that gap. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Like, this is so real. This is not like, okay, guys, book me a conference room at this place and we'll sit down and we'll have a lecture. And I'll put the slides up and I'll give you a handout and you'll learn the stuff and then we'll test you on the stuff and you'll be competent in the stuff. No, this is hodos. It's on the way. In the same way that, guys, as you disciple each other, especially with the youth to youth night next week, your hodosing is not waiting for someone to achieve something and be like, yeah, you did it. Or, gee, you missed it. It's on the way. It's in the middle. It's in the struggle. It's in the pain. It's in the prayer. It's in the faithing. It's in the waiting and the searching and the healing and the hoping and the hurting. It's in the middle. That's discipleship. I didn't walk out of the womb a spiffy disciple. I'm certainly not like that now. And I'm not going to die, hopefully, an old, fat, grey, happy lady. Right? I'm not going to get to there and then think I've done it. Because everything that I use my will for, my God-given free choice, what I watch, what I wear, who I talk to, how many potato cakes I eat, what I'm subscribed to, who I bring in close to me, like all of that is done on the way. You're making those choices all the time. You're making them now. And all of it is part of your discipleship. Hodos, on the way. Faith is process, not product. We're never going to arrive, guys. We're always in process. And the process is what's valuable. This is the point. Discipleship is about becoming the person Jesus would be if Jesus were living your life. And who or what is God? God is love. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. And you don't just turn up and be like, I've arrived, I love you. The person you say it to will be like, get lost, you creep. You don't know me. You haven't spent any time with me. We haven't gone on any dates. You don't know my habits. You don't know what I'm good at, what I'm crap at. Like, you don't just balls up to someone and say, I love you. You go through a process. You spend time together. You work it out. You do good things, you do hard things, you do fun things, you do boring things. You do it all in process together, and out of that comes love. Comes love. So important. If you're worried about your discipleship, that you're not doing enough, that you're not growing fast enough, that you're not achieving enough, can I just say, relax. Relax. Can you first think about, are you being with Jesus? And I don't necessarily mean, although this is good, you go to your prayer groups and your services and all of that. Just, are you quiet enough in yourself to be known by Jesus? Not to hide behind the fig leaves or worry about your nakedness or get distracted by a slimy little snake who once had legs. Are you quiet enough just to be with Jesus? Is that enough? Because where there isn't love, there isn't discipleship. And I think for a lot of us, we numb out. We stop feeling when it comes to faith when we don't feel loved or when we don't feel lovable. It's really hard to wake up from that kind of a sleep or a numbness or a fake out. So we come back to this. It's been a while since I've been here. These things haven't changed. This is how you chip off your clay. This is how you reclaim your gold. This is how you continue to be a disciple of God, because you get quiet enough to be with Jesus and remember that he sees you, that he really sees you, that he hears you, that he accepts you, that you are significant, and that he loves you. You get quiet enough to do this with Jesus, then you can go out and do this with and for others. And you can put so many holes in that bucket that there might as well not be a base. And you will just pour out love upon love upon love. And that is discipleship. You see, discipleship is not about doing what God wants you to do for God's sake because God thinks it's a good idea and we're all about pleasing God. No, sir. Discipleship is about doing and being who God is because it's God's best idea for us, not for God. Does that make sense? Discipleship is not about making God feel better. He's got that covered. Discipleship is doing what God knows is best for us so that we can have that abundant life. Do you know what I mean? You still there? Great, just checking. Sometimes I equate this to my vegetables or my potato cakes or my sleep hygiene or whatever it is. Little things that I often let go because I'm distracted or I make a judgment that something else is more important. But actually, it's what's best for me. Getting close to Jesus, knowing that he sees you and hears you and accepts you and loves you and confers significance upon you. That is what's best for you, and God knows it. And he makes a way for you to do that in community, on the way, from between event, between Fridays, between Sundays, day after day, on the in-between, in the good times and in the bad times, in the high moments and in the weak moments, when you fail and when you succeed. All of your discipleship is done on the way. On the way. And so these are all of the commands that your 4 Gospels, the good news about Jesus, that he loves you and sees you and hears you and thinks you're significant and accepts you. That's the gospel right there. We can talk about heaven, but that's another topic altogether. Good news that you can be whole, that you can have peace, that life is good, that forgiveness is real, that healing can happen, that trauma is not a capital T word, that there's life in death, that miracles can happen, that people can be trusted. The good news about the kingdom of God, it's got everything to do with how you choose to use your will. And in all 4 Gospels, these are the decrees or the commands given to disciples, not just the 12, but all of them, including us. The first one, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your will. Comes straight out of the Old Testament. That's your first thing. If you're going to say, when Tony Stark says, be an avenger, Jesus says, be a disciple, follow me, know me, be with me. The first commandment is simply love me. Love me. The next commandment is love one another. John 13:35. Love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. The next one, be transformed through the renewing of your mind. You know that one? Paul repeats it in Romans 8. And then the last one, which Sammy talked about, make disciples of all nations. Go out and baptize them. First into Jerusalem, then to Judea, then to Samaria, then to the ends of the earth. That's us. And this is all it boils down to. Know me, be with me, love me. Let me do these things for you. And this is the way we change the world. And because it's about participation, not about performing, and because it's done hodosly on the way, it is a symbiote circle, and we keep going round. For some of you, this is not a relief. It's like, oh, Mia, just more work. I know. But you've got one wildly beautiful, passionate life to live. Do something with it. Serve someone. Work well. Change the world. Live your life. Use your will. And I think the best thing you can do is put it in the service of the person who gave it to you, because they obviously want what's best for you. For some of you, this is a relief. It's a relief of, I don't have to achieve anything big and huge and grand and wonderful with my life that the rest of the world will applaud. I just have to keep going, to put one foot in front of the other, to get up each day and to keep doing these things, to love the Lord as best I can. Not perfectly, but with my potential. To love others, not perfectly, but with all of my potential. To be transformed as much as I can. To take my free will and not let it be distracted or hijacked or taken away, but to be conscious of it and put it in the service of someone who loves me. And then to go and allow other people to do the same. That's making disciples. Discipleship and evangelism, a little bit different. Okay? It's another sermon, but they're a little bit different. You live like this. You put your free will in the service of the Lord, and you see the kind of life that you're able to live in that gap, moment to moment, knowing that God sees you, knows you, loves you, wants you. Suddenly you give other people permission to do the same. Making disciples is more about giving people permission to be loved and known by God than forcing doctrine down their throats. Do you understand? Making disciples is about bringing people into your life and showing them that the life you live, even though it might not be perfect, and even though there might be a lot of hardship in it, that you've got a purpose, and that you've got hope, and that you know what love is. Giving them permission to see that and live like that, you've made disciples there. You've made disciples there. And ultimately, those people come to know Jesus. They come to know Jesus. You've got to remember this in this process. Can I have the musicians? This is the cue that we talked about. This is really important, yeah? What can you see in this? Behold, I am making all things new. The fact that the verb is making, not I have made all things new, means we are far from the finish line. It's not over. It's not over. We're a long way from over. Behold, I am making all things new, meaning I am on the way with you all the time. And my being on the way with you all the time is a process of renewing, is a process of making things new. Things are well, things will be well, all manner of things shall be made well. Behold, I am making all things new. Not I was, not I will be, when you get it right, when you're better or when you're perfect, but I am. It brings you right back to John. Now, just before we go into the band, I want to contextualize all of this a little bit for you. Do you know this dude? Yeah, who's this? Captain Sully, yeah. Now, Sully landed a plane on the Hudson River and saved almost 200 people's lives. People said it was a miracle. People said that what he did in 2.5 minutes was a miracle. It wasn't a miracle, guys. He took off from LaGuardia Airport. They had a bird strike in one engine, then in two. He lost both. He had to do 1,000 small decisions in the space of 2 minutes to save almost 200 lives. It's not a miracle. It's an expression of Sully's character and where he put his will for decades. Sully trained as a pilot all his professional life. He practiced, he practiced, he practiced. He got it right, he got it wrong, he got it great, he got it crap, right? But he did it again and again and again. And he started small. But eventually, when the situation came, it was second nature to him and his character to make good decisions and save lives. So often we think that our discipleship and our faith happens or comes to bear or is outworked in the moment, in the crisis, in the victory, in the valley or on the mountain. And people talk about it like that, on the mountain, in the valley. We need to start talking about the in-between and on the way, because no one knows that more than a group of young people. You're not children, but you're not yet fully fledged tax-paying adults. You're right in the middle, on the way. And it's real, and you're doing beautiful things. So for Sully to do what he did, that people called a miracle, and I'm really grateful that it happened the way it happened. But what happened there, let's give him some credit. It's years of hard work. It's years of good decision making. It's years of putting his will and his choices in the service of something greater than himself, so that when the time came, he executed something naturally. How many of you are on L plates at the moment? Quite a few. Peas? Green peas, red peas? Yep, great. So you know when you first started driving and it was like one step at a time? Turn the ignition on. All right, how do I change your gear? Clutch in. All right, change the crunch. Right? If you want to change lanes, you're not just sort of magically head checking and indicating. It's all 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 type stuff. Eventually, guys, you will do this so fluidly, so perfectly, that you will be able to think about 3 or 4 completely different things while you're driving a car really safely and really well. It will become second nature to you, but not on the way, not in the beginning, not immediately. You have to go through the little steps and put your will in the service of a bigger task and practice until you get good at it. What about this? You think Jesus just magically said, yes, I'll go to the cross? You think because Jesus is Jesus that it was just a foregone conclusion that he didn't have a choice? Back to the garden, absolutely had a choice. This moment on this Friday when Jesus is up there dying is the culmination of 33 years of good choices, 33 years of faithful prayers, 33 years of putting his free will in his Father's hands. I only do what I see my Father doing. I only say what I hear my Father saying. Right? It's not just something that we can say, oh, there was no discipleship in that. There is so much discipleship in this. What about this one as we come close to Christmas? 14, young, alone, betrothed, everything on the line. Bring me back, I'll do a Christmas sermon. Can't do it now, really want to. The discipleship it takes for her to say yes. It's not on a whim. It's not bad pizza the night before. It's not having a real brave, badass moment. It's years of her life deciding what's real, what's true, what's important, and putting her will in the service of that. And she says yes, and we have Jesus. Imagine what your years of consistent putting your will in Jesus' hands will enable the world to have. If Mary has 14 years of discipleship and I get Jesus, what will your years of discipleship bring the world? Or your family, or your school, or your home, or your church? Don't shoot for the outcome before you walk through the process. These things are less miracles and more long marches and matches of our will. Does that make sense? Yeah? I want to just do your thing while I invite us to consider some prayer. Here's where I'm at with my discipleship. I have a choice because I'm a human made in the image of God with free will. Just like you. You have a choice. You always have a choice. No matter the situation, no matter how tight and how pressured you feel, please remember to tell yourself and tell each other, you always have a choice. It is God's great gift to you. You always have a choice. Here's where my discipleship's up to. I'm either going to level up, I'm going to take all my quests and all my experiences and all my challenges, all the things I've done to Jesus and say, I want to trade them for a new piece of armor or a new weapon or whatever the gaming analogy is. I want to level up and go again around that circle of loving and transforming and making disciples. I'm real tired though. It's been a year. It's really been a year. Level up, that's a choice. And I put my will in his service, or I can lean in. I can lean into the spaces where I don't feel confident and I don't feel brave and I don't feel like I'm going to succeed. The places where I've already said I'm too far gone, I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too female, I'm not smart enough. Whatever your version of that is, I'm too this, I'm too that. I can't have a clean shot at discipleship anymore because of the things that have happened to me, or the things that other people have done to you, or the things that you've done to yourself, or the addictions that you're wrapped up in, or the stuff you're hooked on, or the things that you never started and you wish you had. You know, you wish you took piano lessons 10 years ago and you could be a master now. You've got a long time to go. You can start today. You can start tomorrow. That's the beauty of God giving you free will. You can always choose to come back to the gap and reach out. Always. Your choice to reach out to Jesus is always legitimate, always there, always available. So it's like level up or lean in. Level up or lean in. And if you're leaning in, I want you to know that you can have confidence that when you do your lean, and it's got to be a trustful lean, there's going to be something steady to catch you. That's discipleship. That's the gap. That's faith. That's hope. And that's love. And as other disciples, we get round that person who's leaning and say, lean, baby, lean. We're here. Lean hard, in fact, and we'll catch you. We'll hold you. Because one day, after that person stops leaning, they'll find that they're actually standing, that the tricycle wheels have come off, that Friday isn't running the suit anymore, that they're their own person, and they'll look around and find somebody's leaning on them. That's discipleship. Just want to give you this space while we've got it. Level up or lean in. If you're going to fall forward. If you're going to fall towards Jesus. Fall towards us. If you're going to level up, put it to good use. Go get that dragon. Go fight that thing. Go claim that treasure. Go build that project. Go live your life, the abundant life that God gave you, with a will to enable you to make the world a place where other people can do the same. You still here with me? Making sense? You've got a will. That makes you a disciple. You get to choose whose disciple you're going to be. So if you know that you're being discipled, you're being conformed to the image of something else, or you're taking on someone else's likeness and you don't like it, trade it in and level up. Trade it in and level up. I don't want to be a disciple of Josh. I like my hair just the way it is. I don't like tacos. I like meatballs. You know, I jest, but you get the point, right? He's the one that I'm needing to level up and out of. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I've had a year dealing with fear and I've still got it and I can feel it, guys, sitting right here. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I want to trade that stuff in and level up in my discipleship and just do stuff afraid. Whatever your version of that is, it's time. It's just time. And if you're leaning, lean in. Level up and lean in. If you're relating to any of this, I'm not going to call you down the front. I'm not going to rehash camp or anything like that. I just want you to know that I know you're out there. And if I know you're out there, and I'm a limited being, how much more so does God know that you're out there? And that this is how you feel, and that this is real, and that this is the life you're living. So with no cost to you and no embarrassment, no shame and blame, if you know that you need to level up, you just slowly raise your hand. Or just let the person beside you know. We'll try it this way. Let's make it easier for you. Why don't you just spend some time closing your eyes and leaning into the people next to you, whether it's 1s and 2s or 3s and 4s. Just leaning in together. That's it. Yeah, be physical about it. It's fine. Just lean in. And just offer God, if you know that you want to level up in your discipleship and you want to take the parts of your will that have been distracted or hijacked or aren't in His service, if you want to level up, you just tell God quietly in the midst of other disciples, yeah, that's me, Lord. Me too. Or if you've got stuff in your free will and you want to live your best life, you just want to start leaning in, you just tell the people around you, just tell the Lord, me too, that's me. I want to lean in. I want to lean in. Guys, I'm going to invite you to start your youth to youth early and pray with the people who are leaning with you. Just spend some time now praying together. Lean in. Level up. Lean in. And Rick will play.